G'day folks, welcome back to Off the Land with Rob. But if you're new here, stick around, have a listen, and I hope I earn your subscription today. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate you spending some time with me. We like to keep it real here on this show. It's just straight talk, just from me, out here on the farm, no city suits telling us what to think, and just doing what we think is right. So if you've been with me since the early episodes, you'll know we've spoken a fair bit about the drought and how it's been hanging around here like a bad smell. And as you know, we've had dry spell here that have tested us and tested the toughest of us. But today, we've got some better news. Well, around here anyway, we've had some rain. But as usual, the BOM got it wrong, but this time, thankfully. Today, we're also going to cover a proper win for Victorian farmers, the Albo capital gains tax that's worrying a lot of farmers. Of course, the fuel and fertiliser crisis is still here, and it's biting pretty hard. And then we're going to finish on a bloody good news story about Linda Widdup and the Aussie Hay Runners. So let's jump into it. Let's start with the rain. As you and I have both mentioned in previous episodes, we've been battling pretty dry conditions, and we've been looking pretty bare. Our dams were low, if not empty, and a lot of us are feeding stock a lot more than we really wanted to. But the last few weeks have brought some pretty decent rains across New South Wales, Victoria, and a bit of Queensland. Here in the Tamworth area, we've actually got a bit of green grass behind us. But the BOM, once again, still talking below average rainfall for May, and of course for the rest of the year. They were painting a horrible picture of continued dry times that were going to mimic 2019, 2020, talk of, the events that led up to that were the same events that were happening now. Well, guess what? We've had 50.6 mils of rain for the month. Yeah, not much, but there's another 31 mils promised before the end of the month. Our long-term May average sits between 34 and 52, depending on the exact station. So we're already in the top end of our monthly target, and we're not even finished yet. So once again, the BOM's missed their long-term forecast. They've just totally missed the mark. I'm not here to bag them every single day, although they may deserve it. But when they keep getting it wrong, it's hard to not be on the pessimistic side. It affects our confidence. It affects forward planning, and it affects us farmers. It just wears us down. We work with the seasons, not with computer models. And the computer models that they're telling us about the seasons, it's just wrong, more often than not. Thankfully, the rain came, despite the BOM. The grass is growing, the dams are getting a bit of a top up, and a few of us might even get a half decent winter crop out of this if we get this next 31 mil that have been promised. It's just a reminder that Mother Nature has the final say, and not some ideologically driven bureaucracy in the city. See the smile? It's almost painted on at the moment. I'm so happy about the rain and how much the season's changed. Moving on, but we're going to stick with a happy theme, to a solid win for farmers in Victoria. Hopefully you've seen my story about the transmission lines, and maybe I'll sort of put it up here somewhere, a link to it if you haven't. I think it was episode 4 of my podcast. But I'm not the only one. There's a lot of big transmission lines and renewable energy projects that want to cut through prime ag land. And the Vic government and Vic Grid have been pushing hard, slapping access notices on gates and threatening huge fines for anyone who doesn't let them just do whatever they want to do on your farm. But there's one bloke who stood his ground. His name's Baldwin. He's from Gre Gre down in Victoria. He runs sheep and crops on his 2,400 hectares that he's got. They forced entry onto his place for surveys in the VNI West project. Greg and other farmers in the area said enough is enough. This is private property, and they wanted them off. And there was a real standoff as the farmers blocked access. They made it very clear that they weren't rolling over. Well, on April 27, Greg found Vic Grid on his place doing these studies that they said no to. So he called the cops. Greg copped the charges for standing up for people illegally on his land. Amongst others, The main charge he got was unlawful imprisonment because he stopped those people leaving before the police arrived. But the good news, VicPol, or their prosecution service, have dropped all the charges. It's a small but very, very important victory because it shows that when farmers stick together and push back, sometimes the government has to back off, and sometimes the government gets told by the courts to back off. The bigger fight for the transmission lines is still going, but stories like Greg's prove you can win these battles. Property rights, they're not just words on paper, they're what's built this country. So well done, Greg, and all you Victorian farmers that helped him, and all the Victorian farmers that are standing up for their own stuff. Just stay out there making your noise. The rest of us are backing you. If you want to go and help, go to farmersfightback.com. I'll put a link in the description below. But go in, you can donate, you can go give your time, you can do all sorts of things, or you can actually just read about the horror stories that's happening down there. Talking about horror stories, this one's got a lot of farmers properly worried. It's Albo's capital gains tax. In the recent federal budget, Labor brought in big reforms. The media keeps talking about it as if it's only going to affect people who have an investment property. But no, anyone who gets a capital growth is going to have a problem with this new tax law. So what's happening is they're scrapping the original 50% CGT capital gains tax discount that's been around for 30 years. So in short, basically capital gains tax is 30%, but because, every government has decided that that's absolutely wrong, they've put in a discount. Instead of reducing it, they've just discounted it by 50% if your capital growth is less than, say, $5 million, all right? But Albo, after saying, no, I'll never touch it, I'll never touch it, I'll never touch it, has gone back on his election promises over the last 2 elections, and he's now changed it. He's scrapped the 50% discount, and he's indexing via inflation rises to the 30% come 2028. So right now, if you sell a property and it's grown in value and it's not your family home, you've got to give 30% of that to the federal government. That's pretty good. And if inflation still is remaining at 4% in 2028, in 2028, you're going to have to give 34%. And if it stays at 4%, like the Labor are going to keep it because they have no idea how to manage money, basically it'll go 34, 38, 42, 46, and in 10 years' time, it'll be 50% of all of your hard-earned work, blood, sweat, and toils will be given to the government when you die or you try to hand it down to your children. And they're calling it fairness to everyone. It's a death tax. When I die, I have to give half of my farm to the government. And here's the reality for farmers. They're not just assets, they're homes, they're businesses, they're livelihoods that have been built up over generations. There's 4 generations that live on this farm. It's not an ice cream shop or a fashion store that closes and then you go home to your home. We don't close, we're just here 24/7, 365. And land values, they've risen a lot over the decades. So when we bought our Mega farm back in 1995, the property value has risen quite a lot. We've put improvements on the property, so that's risen our value quite a lot. And of course, there's now more demand for the land, so that's risen the prices a lot. So when I want to hand my farm off to my sons and daughters, that can trigger a massive tax bill that at the moment is 30% and rising out of control with inflation. Family farms that have been owned for generations or have major improvements, they could be looking for hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in tax, depending on the size and the value of the property. That money just doesn't exist. It's not cash in the bank. It'll force families to sell, at least sell bits of the land, or take on huge debt that they may not be able to pay back just to break even. Or, worst case, they have to actually break up the farm completely just to give the money to the taxman. I can't conceive a world where that seems fair. It's like you'll own nothing and be happy. That's their mantra, isn't it? Yeah. The National Farmers Federation, go away. The National Farmers Federation and state farming bodies have hammered this to the government, and the backlash has been strong with letters, submissions, and meetings. Hopefully, some of it works. Very public statements by these same people saying it's threatening the future of multi-generational farming. Both the Coalition and One Nation have already promised to scrap these charges if they get back in. But they've got to get back in. People have got to wake up and smell the roses and smell the lack of bread in the bakery every morning. This is a death tax. What do you think? Is it a death tax? A lot of us think so. I mean, you work your whole life, you pay tax all along the way, and you build something worthwhile that you'd like to pass down to your kids when it's time for you to move on. But no, the government wants its slice. It wants to take out a big slice, and it's punishing success and makes succession planning a complete nightmare. I'm going to keep watching this one and I'll call it out, but I don't know what else to do. Tell me what you think. Will this affect you or your loved ones? Or are you the one that's going to have to stump up half of the price of your family farm just so you can inherit it, or maybe have to sell it off and no longer be in the farm that's been around for generations? Next up is the fuel and fertiliser crisis that's still hurting many Australians. Diesel prices are still up. They're 50 cents a litre more than petrol in my area. And we use big machinery that uses a lot of fuel. And with everything else that's going on overseas, urea and other fertilisers are either expensive or hard to get in the first place in the quantities that we need. So a lot of farmers are just cutting back on the hectares they plant or going lighter on their inputs, knowing full well it's going to cut into their income come harvest time. That cutting is going to flow through to the community. Maybe not today, maybe in a few months when those crops start to come off. Because less production means higher food prices down the track. And of course, less export dollars. Less export dollars means less money to the government. So what are they going to do next? They've already taxed us out of existence now. They've got no one else left to tax. I know Albo's been flying all over the world and trying to get packages and secure extra supplies, but it's days at a time that he's going around. He's spending pretty much as much fuel flying around the world as he's securing. It's just not working. And things like fertiliser, what he's doing, it's too slow and it's wrapped up in too much red tape for anyone to get hold of it. And for too many, it's already getting too late in the season. The growing season will be finished before this fertiliser gets here. So it's too little too late. So if you're feeling the pinch right now, you're not alone. We're all in the boat with you and we're all thinking about everybody else. Plenty of us are doing the sums, and we're all having to make the tough calls. So hang in there, guys. Don't let them get you down. Just keep it local. So hang in there, guys. Keep an eye on your local farming groups through your socials for any updates and any extra relief. If I come across any relief, I'll see if I can make a short or another video about it to help you guys get hold of it. It's time to finish on a proper good story. I want to congratulate Linda Widdup. She was named the 2026 Victorian Local Hero in the Australian of the Year Awards. Linda is the person who founded Aussie Hay Runners back in 2029 during that terrible drought. She started with 4 trucks, and her and a few of her mates gave up their time, gave up their fuel, gave up absolutely everything to drive hay directly to farmers that needed it the most during that time. No bureaucracy helped, no time wasted filling out stupid paperwork and then the government saying, oh, no, you don't qualify anyway. Just getting the feed to the livestock people. The people on the land who need the food. It was so amazing watching those trucks and watching the hay runs. And since then, it's just grown to something massive, and it still goes. Now they've got over 70 trucks. They've delivered 90,000 bales of hay to keep cows and sheep alive. They've clocked up millions of kilometres across this country as a volunteer group, and they've helped thousands of families through drought, flood, and fires. Linda always says it's a hand up, not a handout. And the look on a farmer's face when a load of hay just pulls up into the driveway, you can't explain it. And that's what keeps her going. She's organised donations, coordinated volunteers, and turned it into a proper network of rural Aussies helping each other. In tough times when governments can be slow or non-existent, people like Linda and the hay runners have really stepped up. She's an absolute legend. And stories like this show the spirit that's still strong in rural Australia. On a side note, we received some hay during the drought from a group like this, and it's such a life-changing event. You really have no idea. Just knowing others care. So we want to shout out to Sue Ellen from Doing It From the Farmers, and Tanya, Luke, Charlotte and Molly from Charlotte's Bucket of Rain. These were truly our drought angels during that drought. And they'll never know what they did for us. Anyway, so that's episode 7. I hope you're still here. We've covered the rain and the BOM miss. A big win for Victorian farmers with the Baldwin thing. We covered the worrying aspects of this CGT changes, and that's scary as. Then the fuel and fertiliser squeeze, and topped it off with the Linda Widdup story. What a great story. Anyway, if you like it, smash the like button, drop a comment. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please share it with your farming mates too, or everybody. Stay strong, look after each other, keep fighting the good fight, but most of all, be safe out there. Catch you next time.